Visual Literacy for Online Education, Module 1, presented visual Gestalt principles which define how we view and interpret visual information. Here in Module 2, you will see the application of this knowledge, helping you develop visually rich, engaging lectures. Here's what you'll learn. First, some definitions. Elements of design are specific categories of visual information, and design principles address how these elements relate to each other in the space in which they are seen. These are the tools of creative professionals. This list is not extensive. See the addendum, Design Tips for Online Lectures, for more information. At this point, I imagine you are thinking, what does this mean to me? I'm not a graphic designer, and I don't want to be. Well, you don't have to be a graphic designer to improve the effectiveness of your lectures with some simple design modifications. Simply stated, effective two-dimensional design is a balancing act between repeating and contrasting elements. To develop unified lectures, first decide how repeating elements will be formatted and keep the rules throughout. Elements that break the rules are different will therefore command attention. Remember, if everything shouts, nothing is heard. Using a design template to create repetition can save time and keep you focused on your content. A template is basically a plan for elements that repeat, font choices, where elements are positioned in a space, layout is the design term, background, and color scheme. Northeastern Online provides a template for use with PowerPoint. This template provides consistency and eliminates the need to make repeated design choices. It is most useful for text content. But a disadvantage to any template is that it can stifle visual interest, limit available space, and lead to boring presentations. Consider the template as a starting point when you design a presentation, and recognize when content is best presented by ignoring the template. In this presentation, the next slide and some examples do not conform to the design template. So how do we use what we have seen to develop effective lectures? We can learn a lot by looking at what is not right, along with improvement strategies. The following examples show some common mistakes, along with improved versions. This lecture point communicates with text only. The only way to incorporate audio is to read the text. An online lecture is not a... You probably aren't listening to me because you are reading. Don't bother, because the next slide presents the same information. An online lecture is not a document, and it is not a classroom lecture. Record audio, develop a multimedia presentation, or present your lecture as a PDF with notes. Students can listen or read the notes while viewing a clear, concise, visual interpretation of the slide content. Have you been comfortable viewing this slide? View the previous slide containing the same content and note the difference. Try not to laugh. It is comical when everything is wrong, but I'll bet you have seen each of these mistakes. First, the fonts chosen are inappropriate. It is good practice to choose a headline font that contrasts the text font, but the headline title font here is illegible and too decorative. Fonts have personalities. This one is meant to recall the look of advertising in the Art Deco 1930s. Why does this help here? It is just distracting. The text font is calligraphic. Fonts that look like handwriting are not very legible, especially to an international student. And again, why should your content look like handwriting? Since this is not a course in typography, see the addendum for further information about fonts. Now, isn't that better? A safe choice for fonts is to stick with the template choices. This slide contains a photograph. The narration says, "This photo has become iconic in American culture. Those of us of a certain age remember watching the bouncing astronauts on the moon. Because of the moon conditions of thin atmosphere and low gravity, the footprints from this event remain unchanged to this day. Is this the most effective use of the photograph? Where are the footprints? Here they are. The previous photograph was too small to reveal footprints without some study. In this larger photo, the footprints can be clearly seen. Often, a template background limits the available space for a photo, so I'm making a design decision to use the template only for slides that contain only text, and not use it when there is a photograph. It is my lecture, after all. I can make the rules. The yellow circle ensures that footprints are noticed immediately. Also note the margin, which frames the content because of the principle of continuation. Keep the width of margins consistent. Although your lecture can follow a rule that photos can break through margins, you make the rules. The key is consistency throughout your lecture presentation. Note how the text box cuts into the photo. Whenever possible, cluster elements by overlapping. Overlapping elements create unity. The text box has a 40% transparency applied to its background. And last, choose colors to contrast the background color. This is a difficult task when the background is a texture of light and dark values. The yellow circle stands out on the photographic background that has both light and dark backgrounds. To attempt to create visually interesting lectures, you might consider the use of pre-made graphics or clip art. Clip art has a bad reputation because it is often used without concern for principles of design. This example is a bad use of clip art. The clip art chosen is not relevant to the bulleted text. The style of the three images is very different. They don't seem to belong together. Large images can make effective backgrounds for text, but here the background image makes the text less legible. Remember that words must have contrast and value to their background. The negative space is filled, causing a cluttered look. Here, clip art is used for a purpose. It takes the place of the bullets in a bulleted list. The three images are relevant to the text, simple and graphic in style. Note the uncluttered, organized look. There is another reason for a clean, uncluttered look. Remember that white or negative space frames and contrasts the text and graphics. Here the large areas of negative space are colored beige, a letter L shape and a rectangle. Avoid chopping up the negative space into small shapes. Save some white space. Don't fill it up with graphics. Visual clutter creates confusion. If you don't use a template, you need to pay close attention to color choices. Don't choose color according to personal preference. Choose your background color first, because everything is seen in relation to the background. Then choose colors that contrast in value, dark or light, for text and images. Here the text is too dark to be legible on the dark blue. The red title has the same problem. Yellow contrasts, that adds an additional color without reason. It is best to keep your color scheme simple. Also, avoid the boxed look of clip art by removing the background white with an image editing tool like Adobe Photoshop. Note that the white backgrounds of the three images are removed. Also, since the black clock face did not contrast with the blue background, it was changed to the same color as the heading. Keep color schemes simple and use neutrals, white, black, gray, or beige, to contrast strong color. This course is only a beginning. It is meant to open your eyes to the possibilities for visual information in your online lectures. Now that you have seen some strategies for incorporating visual literacy principles, use this checklist to review your online lectures and possibly eliminate some bad practices. As you improve the visual design of your lectures, you might want to explore more of the subject. See the next slide for Module 2 citations. And remember to download the printable addendum to this course, Design Tips for Online Lectures. In addition to design tips, the PDF file includes links to online resources for images and graphics. Thanks for viewing.